This is an India Today Global exclusive. A youth movement that brought the Nepal government to its knees. Social media being used to mobilize crowds. And now that very same social media, especially Discord, being used as a platform for an online poll to decide who the future of this interim government will be in Nepal, that will ensure that there's a future for Nepal in terms of what the next government or form of government could or would look like in Nepal. To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by Shashwot Lamichhane. He is one of the earliest voices that brought out the problems in Nepal and that led to the protests culminating in the toppling of the government. Shashwat, thank you so much for joining us from Kathmandu. Let's begin with the online poll that's underway. What is it all about? How is it being done? Is it confined to Nepal? Because some reports suggest that even people from outside of Nepal can really vote in that poll.
Yes, well, I would highly like to stress that that is not a formal poll. That is just a way for us to measure what the public thinks and represent that in the army discussion. So that is absolutely not a formal poll, and that should not be exaggerated to say that it is a decision-making which represents all the Nepalese people.
Okay, but there has been some discord in terms of there has been no consensus in finding or putting a name to who the next leader should be or would be. Shashwat explained to us, when this entire movement was taking place, when the protests were taking place, was there a name with clarity that you thought that the people you're associated with thought would be the person who will take charge and then bring some semblance of sanity and peace in the country? Was there a name?
Look, when we started out, it was not about toppling the government, which is why we didn't think about that. The person that we wanted to have was the mayor of Kathmandu, Balen, but he has strongly suggested that he's not interested, and he also encourages Sushila Karki, the former Chief Justice, which is why we are now rallying behind her to take lead and go forward.
Okay, but there are other names also doing the rounds. How much of popularity do they enjoy? Whether it's Rabi Lamichhane or, for that matter, Ghising, who headed the electricity board of the city. Shashwat, can you hear me?
Of the country, sorry.
I'm just saying that. So, what about the other names, Rabi Lamichhane and Ghising?
Yes, Ghising was the director of Nepal Electricity Authority, the managing director. So both of them were. So Rabi Lamichhane, first of all, we do not endorse him as someone who should represent, because he was in prison, and there still should be some judicial hearings on how he got out and all the fiasco over there. Kulman Ghising, on the other hand, he has suggested that Sushila Karki, he has also endorsed her, which is why since everybody we compiled that that we thought was capable of leading the government, since almost everybody endorsed Sushila Karki, we went with her. And we want to go with her if no further problems arise, and that is what we are pushing to the army as well, whilst we negotiate the formation of the interim government.
Shashwat, we know that a lot of news that started coming out was about how there's massive disparity when it comes to the Nepalese society, and the nepo kids that was trending as videos across the country. Tell us what really happened. What really was the trigger for you when it comes to raising your voice and wanting change?
It isn't really about the nepo kids that prompted me to ask for change. It is the limitation on freedom of speech and how the
Hmm.
Nepalese government was basically saying either the social media platforms should change their algorithms to favor state propaganda, or either completely, to completely not operate in Nepal at all, which is a clear violation of freedom of speech, which will impede democracy, and which could lead us to a highly authoritative state, which is why I was very early on to stage my protest and to call for protest against this decision. And our agenda was always to unban social media, also to gather the youth against corruption. That was something which needed reforms, right? So the CIA, the anti-corruption authority in Nepal, is has highly become a political puppet used by those in power to basically verify themselves as uh, as a non-corrupt person. The CIA became a very puppet institution, which is why we wanted reforms, and that was our agenda. But it ended up culminating into this whole revolution kind of, which overthrew the government, which was not our original agenda, which is why there is so much chaos right now, because this was a huge exceed this protest really exceeded our expectations. This all started after the government shootings and the mass murder of the students, and we were only left with a day to choose leaders, which is exactly why you see this chaos rampant in our country, and which is why we're having so much violence.
Right. Shashwat, just talking about the violence that ensued. Unfortunate that
Such
the
a hard time to
government.
figure out what should happen next and how.
Right, such an unfortunate incident where the government of the time really used brute force against protesters, and that was uncalled for, unacceptable, and they're paying for it. But what ensued later, the violence against these ministers, the beating of the ministers. Shashwat, how would you react to it? Would you say that things did get out of hand? Supreme Court building being burnt or vandalized, the Parliament being burnt down. How do you see these incidents?
I have been telling repeatedly that this was not Gen Z. Those who vandalized, those who burned, this was not those who stood up against corruption, those who stood up against social media ban on September 8th. These were vigilantes, these were mobsters, these were gangsters, carefully crafted by many political institutions, many minority groups, in order to showcase themselves as Gen Z, in order to topple down the government. Many of the houses of the ministers, how come people know where the ministers live? I mean, how come all of a sudden
Interesting.
50 people come to ministers' house and start burning? I mean, there is no public database, there is no government database of where ministers live. This was all planned. Now, obviously, I cannot say that with certainty, but that this is a very probable, very probable course of event. We certainly demand a proper investigation, and we will find out what really happened on that day. But it is very probable that this was purely staged in order to take advantage of the dire situation of the country, in order to take advantage of our agenda, in order to take advantage of our vulnerability.
That's very interesting. The fact that a lot of people across the world, many media houses, were looking at this and saying that students are involved in vandalism and in burning down of the parliament. But Shashwat, you're putting it in perspective, saying that it was not students who were really involved, they were lumpen elements, and that should there be an administration sooner than later, that they will investigate what really happened and who took to violence against ministers or the ones who just stepped down from office. Very interestingly put, Shashwat. If I could also ask you, in terms of mobilization, the fact that the social media platforms that you were used to using were all down, were all banned. How did the mobilization of this movement really take place? And talk to us about the nepo kids as well, because that certainly was a trending subject and a topic that everybody started discussing on the privileges enjoyed by a few in Nepal.
So after social media, most of the social media platforms were banned. I started raising my voice for free speech and against corruption. I started discussing on Reddit. I asked my influencer friends to make videos on Instagram and TikTok. Despite the ban, many people used VPN, many people used proxies, many people used DNS to connect and to watch. And surprisingly, the algorithm of these platforms picked it up like wildfire. All of the people throughout the country saw our appeal for September 8 protest. It kind of started as a spontaneous sort of call to action. It wasn't. I'm not going to say that this was staged by me. It was not. Many people spontaneously decided that September 8th was the date that we were going to protest. I was one of them. We after the social media ban took effect, we drafted an agenda with legal team, with legal experts, to basically negotiate down with the government. That was our original intention. We wanted to negotiate with the government. We wanted to make it very, very peaceful. I personally appealed to NGOs, amongst which was Nepal. I had a meeting with them just a day before the protest to ensure that these protests will not be taken advantage of, because that was my significant fear. And the reason I feared that this might turn violent is because I was a part of a Discord group, an all Discord group, a predecessor to the current Youth Against Corruption group, which I am also moderating. But the predecessor to that was a group called NYRZ, NRYZ, which really pushed for violent agendas, which instructed civilians on how to make Molotov cocktails, those that were used on September 9. And I was very, very concerned with that, which is why I appealed to NGOs, I appealed to groups such as I'm in Nepal to make it peaceful. We tried to, we failed. That is, I suppose, a very, very honest examination by myself.
That's again really being very honest, Shashwat. But also talk to us about the nepo kids. How did that come to becoming a very a trending topic and subject that everybody was discussing? The disparity, the privileges that only a certain few enjoy in Nepal. Tell us what led to this entire disgruntlement and disillusionment.
So I would like to stress that not all wealth is corruption. Many people did work hard for what they have achieved, and we should not label every person who is wealthy to be a nepotism, to have gotten their wealth from nepotism. Many people did work hard to achieve what they have. So which is why we stressed people. Which is why we tried to steer away from this nepo kids trend. We did want to expose corruption, yes, but we didn't want to label every single person, even those who worked hard for the money that they earn, to be labeled so cruelly as nepo kid, and which is why we stayed clear away from it. However, many groups that were present in the protest did come because of this nepo kid trend. They saw the vast difference in their lifestyle versus the lifestyle that these certain individuals were pushing in the Instagram feeds. Lavish yachts, lavish parties, wines, and such activities. Whilst those in Nepal, in Kathmandu, they couldn't afford to buy onions or to buy meat.
That's true.
Which is why that contrast did propel many people to come to the streets. Some unfortunately turned violent and tracked down those people who showed their lifestyle on the internet, and ultimately burn them to the ground. That is the harsh reality. We strongly condemn that. We try to steer clear away from it. I personally try to warn everyone as I could. Uh, but ultimately this happened. I don't know. I mean, perhaps even the vandalism of those houses, or the houses of the kids of um, certain individuals in power, perhaps they were too state planned, or they were too planned by some political entity. I don't know.
Right.
I'm still figuring.
Right.
So that's where I am right now.
Right, Shashwat, where are the conversations and the talks that are taking place? Who is in that room when it comes to the students and the Gen Z representatives? You've been in touch with Sudan Gurung himself. How is this formation, where we're talking about Gen Z representing the entire Gen Z lot? Who really goes in talks with the army? Who's present in that room? And what's the ask over here? What's the demand?
So I'll tell you clearly, nobody knows who's representing Gen Z right now.
Really?
The army doesn't know who's representing Gen Z right now. Yes, really. The reason is, after the army called people to negotiate, after the army called Gen Z to negotiate, multiple factions came to the army headquarters, so-called Jangi Adda, and I was there as well. People were confused. Sorry, army was confused over who to listen to. So they sat us down. All they gave us down to try to figure out the agenda. Gen Z, the monarchists were there. Some representatives of political parties were there. We were asked to sit down. Many people refused to sit down with them, and it ultimately ended up in chaos, which is why the army is now negotiating with multiple different factions of Gen Z, trying to determine who is really who really they should talk to. They're confused. We are confused. Everyone is confused right now in Nepal. I suppose the army is trying their best to talk to as many people as they could. The army is watching closely at the Discord server, where a massive amount of communication is taking place. Harmi Nepal certainly is a frontrunner in these negotiations, but they're certainly not the only organization that the army is listening to. So, which is why it's very hard for me to say who are they listening to or who is in the room, because there is no single room. There are dozens of rooms.
Okay, but there is consensus on Karki, on the former Chief Justice.
Yes, it was very hard for us to reach to this consensus. Ultimately, many people, even though they were not so happy to bring back a person who is well over the 70s to represent Gen Zs, a movement that emphasized on youth representation. In fact, when I was drafting the agendas, we wanted the state to ensure that the youths were represented in national issues and in the parliament as well. That was one of our original agendas. So, sorry, what was the question?
Now that Karki is the consensus candidate, and how come?
Yes. So Karki. So we all ultimately decided upon Karki because all of the front runners that we had in our minds, for example, the mayor of Kathmandu, Metro Balen, another front runner, the former education minister Sumana Shrestha, the former managing director Kulman Gising, the challenger to Sherbadu Deva in Dalal Dhura. All of them endorsed Sushila Karki.
Sushila,
yes. And then we had a voting, which was not really meant to be any formal any like, this wasn't meant to be
it was just getting a sense. Yes, getting a sense.
Yes, this was just for us to get clear of ourselves, because if we had presented Sushila Karki and if we had received backlash from our own people, then that would have been bad, right? So we wanted to get to know if the people are with us on this, which is why we did the poll. It turned out favorable, which is why we gave a name to us. I would like to suggest that the polls in no way was the only deciding factor, and that this is not a national election. A national election will happen, not right now, maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year. Sushila Karki is only heading the
Interim
interim
government.
government.
Right.
Yes, and she will not be endorsed in any way by us to be a full-fledged prime minister, at least not now.
Okay, Shashwat, the fact that you mentioned pro-monarchy factions that were there in the room, I have to ask you this. It was not amiss that we saw the army chief come out and make his first statement and appeal, urging calm to the people of Nepal. And while he was speaking, there was a picture of the former king. Is there a sense that there is a very strong pro-monarchy faction that's also moving the pieces here?
It is the person who was behind the army chief when he addressed was the unifier of Nepal, and it is very common for army for official portraits, or even when the army addresses the public, to have his photo or his painting behind them. It should not be taken as any sort of subliminal messaging given by the army. Now, I'm not the army chief myself. I do not know what is going on behind the rooms, if I am to be frank. However, when we were talking with them, when we were talking with the representatives of the army, when I'm talking with those that went to further negotiations, I did see I did kind of came to the conclusion that the army was definitely not interested in bringing the monarchy back. I do not know for certain whether they will or not. Maybe this was a misdirection on our part. I do not know, but I strongly do not want the monarchy to be reinstated. Neither do the majority of Gen Zs.
No, but maybe not even the army. Shashwat, thank you for clarifying that for us, because a lot of people started looking at that photo and started speculating, which is wrong on anybody and everybody's part, because you are saying that it is quite common for officers to have photos and photo frames of the former monarchs of Nepal, and that has nothing to do with any subliminal message that the army or that anybody is trying to put out over here. So thank you for that clarification, because that's really important for people who had started speculating.
That he was not really the former monarch, he was the unifier.
Yes, the unifier. I'm sorry. Yes. The unifier, which many thought was a part of the monarchy, and therefore the speculation. But thank you for that clarification. Coming back to the protest and where you're standing right now, where the country is standing right now, is there a chance in the future for the former political parties, or the political parties that exist, to be a part of the future government at all? If not the CPN and UML, then maybe the Nepali Congress. Is there a chance for them to really come back, or there is no chance for these older politicians to make their way back into the political system of Nepal?
Look, we believe in multi-party democracy. We are not against any party. We are against the corrupt official. We are against corruption in itself, right? And I do not think that we should label any person as we should not ban people from politics. That's not democracy at all. If they register again, and if the people win, if the people elect the former prime ministers, if the people elect those that were deemed corrupt again, then that will be the will of the people. But we do believe that democracy is to decide, and what we wanted to achieve was an end to or at least a minimization to corruption, a strong institution, a free institution, and a true democracy. That is what we want. And if these people, or anyone for that matter, is to run again, which we should not ban people from running. This is a democracy after all. Everyone has the right to stand up. Uh, then I do not see that the people would re-elect them again. But if they do, we are no one to suggest otherwise.
Sitting in India, Shashwat, I have to ask you this. Is there a growing anti-India sentiment in Nepal? If so, why? And we've seen a lot of reports and reporters who've gone on the ground to report from India, who have faced difficult circumstances in reporting in Nepal. So what's really happening over there? Is there a sense that the reporters who've come from India are misreporting or reporting against Nepal? Is there a growing anti-India sentiment? What's really happening?
Look, there is a stance of the Nepalese against Indian media. The reason for this is because many Indian media covered this protest as just against social media ban. It was mainly, the main agenda was corruption. Yes, I was one of those people who raised the issue of the social media ban more than corruption. But ultimately, most of the people, the majority of people, um, wanted the end of corruption, or the minimization of corruption, as the main agenda, which is why actually there was no one single agenda, first of all. So I think there was misreporting happening there. Furthermore, I think it's totally normal for foreign medias to be rejected during this time of water crisis in Nepal, where people are prioritizing their nation over everything else, where curfews have happening, everyone is confused. It's very easy for people to riot, to get angry. If you were here in Kathmandu, and if you go up to your roof, like I do, every evening, you will see, a huge fire, smokes almost everywhere you look. So it is the whole situation is quite chaotic right now. So I think it should be taken with a grain of salt. I don't think the Indian media is considered, I don't think that the sentiment of the hatred to us Indian media is really about Indian media itself, but really about the growing nationalism and the growing rioting that is happening right now. So the Indian the I have received I also have received certain allegations that there is the Indian army is amassing troops near the Nepalese border. There are huge rumors, or maybe it is not rumors, I don't know, right? That the Indian army is amassing troops near the Nepalese border. People I've talked to who live near the border have said that the Indian activity has drastically increased there, which is why
No,
there is severe concern.
it's surely not to enter Nepal. It's more to do with to secure Indian borders. There has been activity
Sure,
on the
sure.
border. I do not know whether if there's been massive deployment, but there certainly has been increased security to ensure that that there's no spillover effect, because India and Nepal are connected. They have ties. We have familial ties, marital ties, and if there is anything that happens in Nepal, at least if it comes to the Madhes region, then there will be a spillover effect. So the border areas are a little tense right now. That's all there is to it. No plans, I'm sure, of India entering the Nepalese territory, because Nepal is a sovereign
Sure, sure.
country, and I'm sure you'll decide your own future. But you spoke about social media, Shashwat, so I have to ask you this. When the Supreme Court directive came about social media platforms having to comply with the law of the land, firstly, what was wrong with that? Secondly, only the Chinese companies, which included TikTok, complied. They registered themselves under the Ministry of Communications. It was the American apps mostly that did not comply, that did not register with the Ministry of Communications. I'm giving you an example that if this were the case in India, Shashwat, and the Supreme Court had sent out a directive, or if the government had put out a directive, then the companies would have had to comply. There is no two ways to it. Why do you think the Chinese companies complied and the other companies, which included primarily American companies like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram did not comply?
Look, I have had talks with many people about this. First of all, the Supreme Court directive was not to ban these sites; it was to introduce laws in order to prevent cyberbullying and
Yeah,
all those other
yes, yes.
things.
That they should
Uh,
register
uh,
themselves with the Ministry of
that they should
Communications.
register, yes, yes. But a condition for that was that the Nepalese government was that a person from the company should be on call and should be ready to reply to the Nepalese government anytime the Nepalese government will be able to gain access to the algorithms. If you read the directives, you will clearly know that the Nepalese government, if the companies had complied, then they would the Nepalese government will be able to control the algorithms of these platforms. They will be able to control which posts are favored, which are not. They will be able to
Okay,
delete,
okay.
uh, and that is exactly why I was very very concerned. I don't understand why Chinese apps complied and American apps did not. Perhaps because Chinese apps they comply within their own homeland as well, which is why
Yes.
I don't think. But American companies are more about free speech, as I understand, which is why they might have denied
Okay, so
these
there was a
terms.
move to control algorithm, you're saying, is the reason why these apps did not comply with the government. I can understand that completely. Okay. Shashwat, finally, before I let you go, I know I've taken a lot of your time. Where do you see this entire protest movement, the interim government? Where do you see all of this head?
I don't look. Here's the thing: if anyone says to you that they are certain what is going to happen tomorrow, they're lying. All right, nobody is sure, except for maybe those uh, that are in the army. Perhaps even they are not sure. I don't know. Look, where we wanted to head is for a very very stable interim government to form, the curfews to be lifted, the armies to send back to the barracks, and for civil peace to and prosperity to begin, and for Nepal to begin a fresh new chapter, and to forget the violence, to forget that this happened, and to live in peace, in prosperity, in harmony amongst each other. That is what we want. But are we going to get it? I don't know. Are we? We don't know anything right now. To be honest, it's very very confusing. We are trying to make sure that things go smoothly. We are trying to communicate. We are relaying it on Discord as well. We are moderating discussions over there. We're trying to hold press conferences. We're trying to make sense of it all right now, so as to what happened on September 8 and 9, so as to what will happen tomorrow. But we don't know. Nobody knows, perhaps. And that is where we are right now. So I'm not going to
Okay.
say anything to certain right now.
All right, Shashwat. Uncertain times,
Mhm.
but hoping for a better and more stable future. The region is important, Nepal is important, so we only hope peace and calm returns with a very strong government, a corruption-free government, not just for Nepal, for the youth of Nepal as well. Shashwot Lamichhane, thank you so much for joining us here on the network.